Hello everyone, this is Arthur, or E.G. Arthur if you prefer, and this is a video about the Treasure Bugan event, which is currently in progress. I have done a video before about Treasure Bugan, but that one was mostly focused on using a particular plugin to help with the Treasure Bugan. I will be covering that kind of briefly about how to use that plugin and another plugin to help with the Treasure Bugan. But the main twist here, the main difference between that video and the previous video is that this Treasure Bugan event that I'm going to be doing is on one of the new legendary servers, one of the new Veil of the Nine servers, which are called Angmar and Mordor. And one of the main impacts of that is that we're only at the level 50 cap right now with the Shadows of Angmar content. So as you can see, the instance finder list is pretty short. In the other video, I was showing things like sword halls, battle for Erebor, and so forth. None of that is available here. Additionally, my focus is mostly on doing this solo. So there are only some of these instances which are really appropriate to try and hunt Bugans as a solo player, because a lot of the instances are 3-mans or 6-mans, and the Bugans are far into the instance, so meaning you have to get through a bunch of bosses and so on and so forth. So they're not really appropriate for a solo player. The two instances that I have selected to show in this video are Woe of the Willow and the Library at Thamurdane. Now, there's pluses and minuses between those. The Library instance, one of the drawbacks is that you can only run it as a 3-man. It only has a 3-man option, so you're soloing a 3-man on level, because you have to be on level in order to spawn a Bugan. So that's not going to be feasible for a lot of people. Also, since even though the library instance is technically scalable, the minimum level is 50, and that happens to be the level cap. So there's only one level currently that you can run that instance at, which is level 50. So if you're not level 50 yet, then you can't. That's not an option for you. So as I was saying, it's a 3-man. The good thing, though, about Library is you don't have to defeat any bosses to get to the area where the Bugan spawns. You just need to get through some groups of trash mobs and get up to the southern balcony. So that one can be pretty fast because you only have to get through trash mobs. Woe of the Willow, on the other hand, you can run that as low as level 20, so it's available to a wider range of levels. You can also run it in solo mode. In fact, the defaults in Instance Finder, if you actually go to Woe of the Willow, are to come up as size 1, which is solo, tier 1, and whatever your level is. My level happens to be 50, but if you were, say, level 37, it would default to being level 37. So another thing that's useful about that is, in addition to the fact that you're running it in solo mode, meaning that the mobs have less morale, they do less damage, there are less of them. But in addition to that, in solo mode, you summon a companion that helps you. Her name is Marigold. She's a hobbit. And at least I think she's a hobbit, or just a very short human. But she will heal you, and she will also do a little bit of DPS. So Woe of the Willow is probably the most accessible of all of the instances for solo players trying to get Bugans. But one drawback is you do have to get past the first boss. The Treasure Bugan spawns just a little bit past the first boss before you get to any trash mobs, but you do have to take down the first boss. It's not hard to do as a solo player with help from Marigold, but it is kind of time consuming, so it does have that drawback. All right, so let me talk about if let me talk about the plugins that I'm going to use. First of all, I'm going to use a plugin that I maintain. This is a fork of a earlier plugin. The plugin I maintain here, and which I'm going to show, is called Genout, Genout. You can get it from LOTROinterface.com. And it's a fork of an earlier plugin by Garen, which was called Alerter, and I have added and enhanced it somewhat, including the ability to import configs. One of the importable configs is called Treasure Bugan, which I'm showing right here in the setup utility. And what it does, this alert listens on the quest channel, and it looks for this particular string, new quest, the Treasure Bugan, which is what comes up when you spawn a Bugan in an instance and you are eligible for the quest. And I'll talk about eligibility in a moment. If all those things are true, then you get this pop-up, and when it triggers, then it shows an image in this area here. You see this viewport that I'm moving around here? That's where the image will appear. You can change the size and the aspect ratio of this image. You see I can resize it, move it around, etc. In fact, let me shrink it up a little bit from what I have as the default. Put it over here. I like it in the lower right-hand corner, but you could move it anywhere you want. You can move it up there if you want, and so forth. And the basic idea is that when the Bugan spawns, the alert triggers, this image comes up. You need to target the Bugan at that point, and then click on the image. And when all those things are done in that sequence, then it will issue a /follow command with the Bugan targeted, which means you'll start following the Bugan. This is very useful for melee classes like the captain that I'm running here, so that you can focus all of your energy and attention to your combat skills, and you don't need to move at all. The Bugan tends to run around and switch back in different directions and things, so you don't want to be spending a lot of time moving. It's better if you can just be on follow and spamming your combat skills so that you can take it down, because you have to take it down within 60 seconds. Otherwise, you don't get credit. All right, so the other plugin that I'm using here is called Gibberish, and this is not my plugin. This is from someone else. And I've created a very simplistic alert here, or whatever you want to call it, window, group, whatever the terminology is. And I called it Treasure Bugan, of course. This is the string it triggers on, which is you reclaim the stolen treasure. Now, in contrast to the Genout config, this string is what comes up when you successfully complete the quest to kill the Bugan. So while Genout will alert as the Bugan spawns, this will start a timer when you complete the quest to kill the Bugan. So those are two different timers that trigger at two different times, and then it starts a 300-second timer counting down. And the purpose of this is because there is an internal 5-minute cooldown from when you complete the quest until you can get the quest again. If you spawn a Bugan and kill it, within that cooldown, you don't get any credit, and it's just frustrating and annoying and a waste of time. So this timer is to prevent you from wasting your time and getting annoyed by spawning a Bugan and getting no credit for it. All right, before I crank up the instances, though, I want you to be aware of one more thing. The reason I am here at Kilundum is because this is a convenient place to talk to a hardened traveler. And just before I started capturing this video, I turned on my landscape difficulty and I bumped it up to landscape difficulty 1. And the reason I'm doing that is because when you have landscape difficulty on, there is a possibility of spawning wraiths in instances. And that is another thing about these new legendary servers, is that under certain conditions, you can spawn a wraith, which is kind of like an elite. And we'll see how that goes. This might actually go really badly because I think there's a possibility I could spawn a Mournful Wraith, which is always on level to you, and a Mournful Wraith is kind of difficult to deal with. I can deal with them fine when I'm in yellow spec, as a tank on a captain, but in red spec, it's going to be dicey if I get a Mournful. So we'll see how it goes. All right, so let me now go to the library instance. Now, as I said, I'm in red spec. Most of my gear is oriented towards tanking. The only exception is that I have this axe, Iorcathal from Uragarth, which is considered, I think, the best axe for a heavy two-hander class type thing. So we'll see how this goes. I'm not going to do delving, by the way. That would be insane. But I'm going to do this. Now, normally, I run through and aggro 2 groups, but because I have the landscape difficulty on and the possibility of a Wraith, I'm only going to pull 1 group here. And I got a Wraith. And it's only a shadowy, so I should be able to manage this Wraith. Along with all the rest of the stuff. I am going to have to use my Cry of Fury, though. Alright, so that worked. It was a good thing I only pulled 1 group. Because if I got that Wraith and I had 2 groups to deal with, I don't know whether I would have survived that. Alright, let's continue. Next group. As I said, if I didn't have landscape difficulty on and there was no possibility of a Wraith, I would pull both of those groups. Because I can usually manage that. If necessary, I'll have to pot, or I'll have to use Cry of Fury, or something like that. But generally speaking, where'd my Herald go? All right. And I'm using the Archer Herald, by the way. It would be more prudent for me to use one of my other heralds that can heal me. So I'm taking a bit of a risk with that, but I'm willing to live with it. All right, so all the groups in the hallway are done. Now I'm going to go to the center courtyard, stay in the very center of the walkway here, then stay in the very center of the walkway going south, which is a left turn. You want to move crisply here because the group in the north patrols, and if you dilly-dally too long, you may end up aggroing that and having 2 groups to deal with. Make sure that you cleanse, because they put various kinds of wounds and poisons and things on you. Now, one thing you'll note, which is kind of an interesting little interaction, is that if you look on my buffs, you'll see that I don't actually have landscape difficulty showing. Because this is a 3-man, landscape difficulty is suppressed. However, the fact that I have it enabled, even though, let me, okay, well, I'll get back to that in a second because I've got a Bugan to kill. So I successfully spawned the Bugan, I targeted the Bugan, I click the image, and that happens sometimes. The follow is not foolproof in library. Sometimes the follow will lead you off the balcony. So I guess it's a matter of make your own decision about whether you want to risk that. As you can see, I should be able to still kill the Bugan in within 60 seconds and get credit. Yes, I did. So it is recoverable, and most of the time you don't fall off the balcony, but it is possible. So if you prefer not to use that plugin, then you can just disable that that particular alert with a gen out for library. If you're doing Woe of the Willow, though, there's no balcony to fall off. So I don't see any downside for using the gen out plugin for that one. All right, so I got one Wraith spawn in library. Now let's do Woe of the Willow. And remember, I'm gonna try and show a failure here where you you spawn a Bugan, but you're not eligible for the quest because it's still within this timer here, this 5-minute timer. So I'm on the clock here. I'm going to try and get to the Bugan before the before that timer expires. Now, what I was trying to describe earlier, but then I interrupted myself because I was fighting a Bugan, is that because I was in a 3-man instance, the landscape difficulty was suppressed. But even though it was suppressed, it still meant that it was possible to spawn a Wraith in the instance. Even though landscape difficulty wasn't showing, the mere fact that I had it enabled means that you can have the possibility of spawning a Wraith. Here, I'm running this in solo mode, so landscape difficulty is in effect, which is going to slow me down a little bit, but hopefully not so much that I'm not able to do this within the timer. Marigold is kind of looking a little beaten up here. She usually doesn't take that much damage. Maybe it's because of the landscape difficulty. I'm not sure. Let me... well, because I'm in standalone, I don't think I can actually heal her. All right, so now my challenge is, with landscape difficulty on, I need to kill this boss in about within 2.5 minutes, and allowing enough time for me to go up and spawn the Bugan, hopefully, before the timer runs out. All right, so I'm going to throw everything I can at this guy. Oathbreakers, Banner, Masterful Strike. I'm going to ignore the striking blows and just let Marigold heal me through those. And put on my mark. Use Gallant Display. Everything. Sweeping Limbs I'm going to run away from because that's a big knockback that will cause me to waste some time. And, okay, I'm down to about 1.5 minutes on the timer. Come on, just die. The landscape difficulty is definitely slowing this down. Usually he's dead by now. Can I get this before Sweeping Limbs? Yes. I killed him just before the Sweeping Limbs went off. All right. Let's run over here and see if we can spawn a Bugan. I haven't had any Wraiths in the instance yet. And there's the Bugan. All right, now can I notice that the Gen Out plugin did not trigger because that quest message didn't come up because I'm not eligible for it. So I killed the Bugan and I didn't get any coins and I didn't get any credit. So that is the failure mode. So that's why you watch this timer and you wait until it counts down before you try to hunt another Bugan. All right, so let me now go back to library. And I'll show you the success case. And again, I'm only going to pull one of these groups at a time because I might get a Wraith again. And if I get a mournful, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to survive that if I get a mournful. And definitely if I get a harrowing wraith, that's not going to be survivable. No wraith yet. All right, let's see if we get a wraith this time. I'm holding back on some of my skills here in case I do get a wraith. Like, I'm not using my banner or my Oathbreakers or Time of Need. No wraith. Interesting. So that I can pop those in case I get a wraith. Okay, now we got a wraith. What is it? It is a mournful wraith. All right, this is going to be fun, fun, fun. I'm going to pop a hope token quickly. Fury, corruption removal, Oathbreakers, banner, masterful strike. There. Okay. Well, that tells me that I can survive, even in red, with standalone and an Archer Herald and a bunch of other mobs. I can survive against a mournful spawning in the instance. If I get a harrowing, though, yeah, that's game over. Harrowing is a whole other matter. Now, actually, I think at this point, I don't need to worry about wraiths because I think there's a cooldown, a personal cooldown on my character, since I just killed one. Now, wouldn't it be a bummer if after all that, I don't spawn a Bugan? Well, I was considering spending some mithril coin. There we go. I got one. Okay. I'm going to try to do a follow again. And hopefully not fall off the balcony this time. And I got the coins. There we go. And it starts another 5-minute timer. So anyhow, that's the video. I was lucky in a sense that I got a mournful, so I could show you guys what it's like to deal with a mournful in an instance. I showed the use of plugins, and the Treasure Bugan event, and Veil of the Nine. And hopefully you found it interesting. And I'll catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.